Open your browser and search Chartable. C-H-A-R-T-A-B-L-E. Tap search. Then you will find chartable.com website. In the first search result, go to this website. Here, this is the home page of Chartable podcast website. You can see here anyone's podcast analytics. You can see your one's podcast analytics, everyone's podcast analytics. So now we will see the example. Sober strength. So here this. Alright. So this is my client's podcast. If you scroll down, you can see that this is the chart. Here we can see Spotify. We can also see Apple, but this client Apple is not ranked now. But the Spotify is good ranking. That is why Chartable shows the Spotify only. So here the Spotify ranking 118 Spotify United States of America top podcast. And the second ranking is 4 Spotify United States of America Health and Fitness. And this 9 and 1 means this podcast has increased 9 at last 24 hours. And this 1 means the podcast has increased 1 in last 24 hours of their ranking. So we can see this more details. So if you go here, you can see the ranking of those podcasts. Spotify top ranking podcast, top podcast. Let's see that 118 Sober Strength podcast. So we'll go back and we will see the 4 that health and fitness category of United States of America. So we will click here and you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. So this podcast ranking is 4. Alright, if we go back and here we can see rank history. So simply we will click rank history and you will see a nice cradle of ranking. Very nice cradle of ranking. So if you just keep your mouse here, you can see now the ranking is 120 November 28 date. See this ranking November 21, rank 193, rank 156 November 3. And this means the podcast was out of ranking. So if you go back and just see Spotify United States of America Health and Fitness, and now you can see a cradle, how it's down, ups, day by day. In the November 10, the rank was 24, and after November 11, the rank was 24, and then the ranking was growing. November 12, the ranking was 21, and then 18, the ranking was 11, and after that November 19, the ranking was 13, decreased, and then it was growing. And now today when I am recording this, the ranking is 4. So this is the Chartable podcast, and for this you have to log in. Chartable podcast. Just tap here login and log in with your podcast or your email. So if you search another podcast, any other podcast, so we can see the same things. You can simply search counter okay, all right. We can see this CounterClock podcast analytics. So this is CounterClock podcast, and if we scroll down, you can see chart. There are two chart, Apple Podcast and Spotify also. You can see your podcast or your client's podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify podcast, everything in this chart. So we will tap here rank history. This is Apple, and if you go is Spotify, you can see rank history. This is going down. I usually use these Chartable tools to see my one podcast, my client podcast, and every podcast ranking. So if you think this Chartable is helpful for you, let me know in the comment section. And thank you so much.